as gentle as you can be on yourself in terms of listening. If you're tired and you can rest, if you feel like you have an overabundance of energy and you feel like it's like, I feel like I'm just sparking and have excess energy. A really helpful thing is to go and put your feet on the ground and like your bare feet on the ground. It's called grounding. And feel that as you inhale, you're pulling up the energy of the earth through the soles of the feet and letting your body have that energetic exchange with the planet. Your body will know what to do, but there's an electron exchange that happens when you do that. If it's like super cold where you are and that's just not going to happen, you can find a tree, put both hands on a tree. That is also grounding. Having both hands on it completes a circuit. So it's a better way to communicate with the earth when you've got both hands on it. Salt baths can be very helpful too, or getting in a natural body of water. That's very helpful. But if you can't do that, or in addition, putting some Epsom salts in a bath can also be very good. Making sure you stay hydrated. That's critical as well. Feeding yourself nourishing foods. If you're wired and then you're also like drinking a lot of caffeine and a lot of sugar and things like that, notice that and you'll want to adjust because that's going to just exacerbate things. So lots of ways for us to cope with it. But funnily enough, sometimes it takes noticing it and noticing like that we're off, because sometimes it can feel so personal.
Hi, Conscious Parents. It's Carrie here, and I am here with a little info about raising our mindful kids. I've got some tips and tricks about breaking free of the box and becoming who you are and teaching your kids how to do that along the way. Join us. Hi there, happy listeners. It's Carrie here, and I'm so excited. I have a new project called Conscious Family Travels on YouTube. It's all about mindfully traveling with our highly sensitive kids. We love to give tips and tools about how you can pack, traveling with dietary restrictions. We love to share in-depth guides of certain areas that we are traveling to, as well as some of the actual items that we use along our journey. So join us on this Conscious Family Travels journey. Welcome back. It's your friendly intuitive mama here, and I'm so excited to connect with another mother who brings in the spiritual side as well. I have Kara Goodwin here today. She's an author, an energy healer, meditation guide, and she hosts the Soul Elevation podcast. All right. Yes. So Kara, I would love to dive in. You mentioned you're a mom too, and I love that, and that your spiritual journey was when your kids were elementary age, and that's the age my kids are, and a lot of our listeners are elementary age and a little bit above. What would you say what have you found as spiritual pieces in parenting? How would you say those align or have overlapped for you?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to give people this chance to think about themselves, to let that intersection happen of parenting and spirituality, because sometimes we can compartmentalize our lives and not really know how those two things go together.
Yeah.
My kids are teenagers, so I have two high schoolers. And like you said, when my awakening happened, so some people, they've had a spiritual journey that started from day one and they have kept that alive. That journey has stayed with them throughout their lives. But I think for a lot of us, either we don't practice the same type of spirituality that we grew up with, or we didn't have a foundation. And for me, I didn't grow up in a particularly religious household, but I was always interested in spirituality. And then in my early 20s, that part of me died. I withered up. And because I wasn't nurturing it, I wasn't feeding it. I was very much just in the material world, and that was fine. And I was still interested if I heard paranormal things. That was always still really interesting to me, but I was not really sure that it was real, that people weren't just making it up and things like that. So when I underwent my spiritual awakening, it actually happened through tragedy, because many different elements of my life started to fall apart. And it began with the suicide of my sister-in-law, who was also a very close friend of mine. And that was just devastating. And it'll be 8 years, 9? Wow. 9 years this week So
I'm so sorry. Wow.
yeah, thank you. And from there, in very quick succession, 3 weeks later, our dog died. And a few weeks after that, my stepdad was having had a spinal stenosis surgery on his brainstem. Then my mother-in-law was hit by a motorbike when she was crossing the street. So she was in hospital
Yeah.
for a long time. And then after a couple of months after that accident, then my stepmom went into the ICU for a failing heart, went to the top of the heart transplant list and had a heart transplant on the day after Thanksgiving.
Wow.
So and we were living abroad when this happened. So not near either family. So it was a very tumultuous time. It was like, I felt like I had been coasting through, enjoying this like Mediterranean lifestyle and enjoying life. And then it was just like one thing after another was getting ripped away. And it was disorienting to say the least. And so ultimately through that, I found meditation and I felt such a relief from the practice of meditation. It really helped to center me, and it was still a very secular practice. It was really just about calming my nervous system. But with my kids, they're part of my family and they're going through this too. And my daughter, I want to say, was like 5 or 6 at this time. My son was 8 or 9.
Yeah.
And both, especially my son, I felt could really benefit from meditation. Who can't benefit from meditation? This place is a mess. It's like life is hard.
Yeah.
And
All ages
we all,
need it.
yeah, we're all just who can't use some nourishment in their nervous system and some just to feel like things are okay and to realize that we have the capability within us. Like that comes from within us. It doesn't come from somebody handing us peace of mind.
Yeah.
We ignite it within ourselves, even with what the external is bringing up. And my son in particular was he just had a harder time generally, like socially at that time. He's made leaps and strides since. We were living abroad. We were in an international school, but we lived in Italy. And so most of the population of the school spoke Italian. There were a lot of native Italian speakers or expats, but their native language was a Latin-based. And so Italian was a lot easier for them. There was a really small percentage of people who were English speakers. And that just adds another layer of complexity to that. Yeah. It's a hard age. Ages are just hard. Life is hard. You know?
It's hard to be a human. Yes, I get it.
And so when you already aren't like losing confidence, and then you're put in a situation where like you're ripped from everything that's familiar to you, and you're entering into this small environment where there's only one classroom per grade. These kids have known each other for years because they just keep moving up grades together. They can speak like the secret code that you can't crack. And you just feel like the outsider all the time. So my mind was like, this will really help my kids. Like I want them to grow up with this tool.
Yeah.
And so as I was learning meditation, I was making a point of translating that into how do you do this for kids? And so I did things before we would leave for school. Get your stuffed animal, get your favorite stuffed animal. Let's put it on your belly and let's just take some breaths and notice like when you inhale, make the stuffed animal rise. And then as you exhale, notice it fall back down and just do that. And it was great for a couple of weeks. Honestly, while they were interested in it, it was great. But it did not take long before that became a push where it was like, all right, we're going to leave. Guys, come on, why are your shoes not on? All right, go, get on the couch, get your stuffed animals. We don't have to, come on, guys. You know,
real life.
Yes. And it was this thing, they didn't want to do it anymore. It was this, God, I don't want to. And that was an interesting place to be in because, and it's just it's a metaphor for our roles as parents, where it is like, we know things that could really benefit them. We know these tools that we have. And they're their own person, they're their own being, they have their own desires. And sometimes the more we push, the more we're pushing away. And it became this really obvious thing where it was like, wow, they're really rejecting now this mindfulness. They're rejecting this notice your breath. Like it's like tainting because I'm pushing so hard.
Yeah.
And I was like, the last thing I want them to do is to feel like, no, that's that stupid thing that my mom makes me do. And they're so young that it's such there's such a deep imprint from those times. So that was something that my ego needed to recognize. Like, you may know something that you think, but there's another layer to this that you would be wise to take note of. And it's not just about research. It's not just about what your meditation teacher is telling you. It's not just about what YouTube videos are telling you.
Yeah.
You can see what's happening here. And what do you really want for them? It just felt important for me to notice, like, long term, I really want them to have a healthy relationship with these tools. And if that means that this isn't the right time for it, then that's what that means. And that kind of reared its head again because I did just drop it. And it was like, okay, ultimately and that was years ago. And I have continued to uphold my role at this time is as a role model for as far as like the meditation things go. They know how important it is, and they can see that they can see how I behave and my ability to cope with stress and the way that people comment about how they feel when they're around me and things like that. It's like that's just there for them to notice. And then as they mature and as they deal with life and life gets more complicated for them, they know very well what this tool is or these types of tools that I have, where to find it, where to get their support. But it did rear its head again recently because my daughter had a health issue and needed a very extensive surgery a few months ago. And leading up to the surgery, okay, so I prefer alternative health. And I don't necessarily run to my Western medicine doctor for them to prescribe a lot of things for me or to advise. And so when I knew that we had this problem, we dealt with it for many years, and I tried a lot of different things. And she came along for the ride for a lot of different types of treatment. And I think for her, she was hoping for a silver bullet. And I knew that none of these things were going to be a silver bullet.
Yeah.
But every time I would try something and it didn't immediately fix it, she would be like, let's just have the surgery because this isn't working. And so it was another like ego push pull. I don't tend to go to extremes on any, so I knew that there could be a role for Western medicine and I've been to that, but I just didn't want to be like, first and foremost, let's have surgery. But that was another time where the time came and she was just done. And she was just like, no, I don't want to try any of these other ideas that you have. Let's just see what the surgeon says. And that was the route that we ultimately took. And I was supporting her in my energetic way, in my being careful about the words that I chose and the energy that I put out there of, okay, this is the path forward. You have an amazing team. You are surrounded by angels and helpers, and you have a great medical team. You have people around the world praying for you. And so it was like invoking this holistic thing, but okay, we're moving forward. There is a place for the surgeon and the surgical team. And we are blessing them. And we are bringing in like the full force of all the energy, the energetic support that we can. But it is what it is. And I'm not going to like be irresponsible with my egoic, nope, this is the way forward. The only way is the alternative way. And also just respecting her. I've had enough now. And it's okay, it is your body and I'm your guardian. You're still 14. So but you're 14 and this is your life, your body. And so I was like, Kara, listen to her. What is she wanting to tell you?
I love how you stayed conscious in that because I feel like the pendulum can swing so far in either direction. Alternative medicine or Western medicine, the pendulum tends to go really far. And
Yeah.
being conscious as a parent and also acknowledging sometimes the mom shame that can come with it.
Yeah.
We did not have the exact same level of intensity. My daughter recently, we were sick a week and a half ago. We're still getting over it, but she had an ear infection and I tried all the alternative methods, all of the pieces, and it was so intense. And I've had a friend who the tympanic membrane, the eardrum ruptured. So in my
Oh,
mind, I'm
wow.
like, there's a balance, right? There's
Yeah.
this balance. And then you have the mom shame of, oh God, I have to give her antibiotics. Oh, that's the worst. And you're not supposed to do that because of gut health and all these things, right? The pendulum as it swings in either direction. So I love how conscious you were about that. And you were looking at, is it my ego side saying it? And then also, once you made a choice, you jumped in and you used all your spiritual tools with you and your mindful tools along the way to really feel protected and present. And this is what we're going to do right now. So it was beautiful how you
Oh,
transitioned into that.
thank you so much. And that's a powerful story too, and so relatable with the antibiotics. And that's another piece to our
Oh,
spiritual
yeah.
evolution, as some people come to spiritual evolution through parenthood, through the portal of
Mm-hmm.
becoming a parent.
Oh,
That is
yeah.
that ignition within them of, okay, there's something more here. Like reality has shifted.
Yes.
There's a lot deeper,
Yeah.
things are deeper than I expected. So what does this mean? And
Yep.
that can take them into spirituality. But for a lot of people, that entry point is health. It's a health
Mm,
crisis, and they go
mm-hmm.
through something,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a family member
Yep.
or themselves or both.
Yep.
And just what you're saying, the pendulum can go so far over. And a big component, in my opinion, of spiritual evolution, spiritual growth, enlightenment, however you relate to that, is
Yes.
empowerment. And
Mm-hmm.
it is and understanding that your doctor is not the be all and end all. They're not a god. They are not actually the one responsible for your health. You are actually responsible for your health. And that can be a big step for people to in their own growth and evolution. But that empowerment piece is critical, and it requires discernment. And so what can happen, and it frankly it does happen a lot, is we throw the baby out with the bathwater. Whether that is, oh, my eyes are open to this whole petroleum, pharma, big government, like industrial military complex, and how it all works together. And it's like we're just like what they're feeding on. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not actually about our health. If that's like the conclusion that we're coming to, then we might say, okay, what I actually want to do is I'm going to pick on functional medicine. Now, my doctor is a functional medicine doctor. I really appreciate functional medicine in that viewpoint. But there is a watch out there, because a lot of functional medicine programs are member based, they're subscription based. And it can be one of those things where you decide that the only true medical way to go is through functional medicine. You could say the same thing about
Mm-hmm.
chiropractic. You can say that, and which I also use. You could say the same thing about acupuncture, which I also use.
Yeah. Yeah.
No judgment, but it's like from an empowerment standpoint, we need to stay in our discernment and not say, okay, I withdraw the power that I was giving to my primary care physician, who was a
Mm-hmm.
traditional Western person, or the pediatrician, who is a traditionally trained Western doctor. And I'm just going to hand that over now to this functional medicine group. And if they tell me that I need 16 supplements that I have to buy through their practice, I need that every month. I need to be in a membership program. I mean, we
Uh-huh.
have this even with veterinary care. Like the vets are
It's true.
membership based. I just picture when I see these programs, I just picture these business consultants in a room with all these whiteboards, like trying to finagle the system to manipulate
Oh,
everybody to be
geez.
like, okay, they might need, is it enough that they're coming to the vet once a year if they have healthy pets? No, let's incentivize
Mm-hmm,
them to come
mm-hmm,
as much as possible so that
mm-hmm.
we can have the opportunity to, one, get funds from them even when they only really need to come in once a month or once a year, if that, but also whatever we find on top of it that we can
Yeah,
sell to them. This is the reality. So
yeah.
really it is. Again, I've got pets. I go to the vet. It's not, I'm not like trying to shame anybody. I'm in this system too, but these are the
Yeah.
reality checks and the learnings that
Hmm.
I have experienced along the way where I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, I could spend a fortune at my functional medicine doctor and I'm really healthy. So I'm like
Yeah.
opening
And
our eyes and staying empowered.
yeah, finding a balance between it all is so important and also being conscious in it for sure. I was going to ask you when you were going through your challenging situation and you're having so many things with so many family members when you were living abroad in Italy, meditation, it sounds, helped you as you were going through that spiritual journey. Was there anything else? Is that when you studied the energy healing, or what did you do to help yourself in that time? I feel like so many parents right now are raising intense, spiritually gifted kids, highly sensitive kids, and it can feel so intense on our systems.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was curious.
Yeah, so part of my like learning meditation, there was also a big breath work focus
Mm,
on that too. And breath work is so helpful for regulating our nervous
mm-hmm.
system. It
Yeah,
is this shortcut. It is
yeah,
this way to like hack in, and
yeah.
it takes that mindfulness of noticing because we can just be in the thick of it. It's like when
Mm-hmm.
things are whirling around us and we're all caught up in everything, it can be really hard to even notice that we're not really breathing, or we're breathing really shallowly,
Yeah.
or we're holding our breath. Or when it's like, notice, I even just this weekend, I didn't have anything in particular that was stressful that I could point a finger at, but I just kept feeling this tightness in my
Mm,
solar plexus at the top of my stomach.
mm,
And I was like, what is that? And then I was like, just breathe down in there. And so I wanted to
mm-hmm.
feel it opening up. I wanted to feel my solar plexus, which is just this bundle of nerves just below where your rib cage ends,
Mm,
where it comes together at the bottom. Just below that is this bundle of nerves that's the solar plexus. And I was just consciously, while I was driving, like inhaling and filling that and feeling it expand. And it was like, I feel like that's the first breath I've taken. And I don't even know why, but it was just like, gosh, when was it was so tight. And so when we're in that constant state of
yeah,
worry, of anxiety, of
yeah.
whatever it is that we're in, getting that breath down into the belly is critical. But there are other like magical
Mm,
breath work pranayama exercises that really help to change like the pH of our oxygen and our blood, sorry,
wow.
pH of the blood through the oxygen regulation. So that was a big part of it. And then other components that can go alongside with meditation, like affirmations,
Mm,
can be huge because the affirmations, it's the repetition of a word. So if we're using your native language, you might be saying something that is, I just led an affirmation meditation yesterday, and we were
wow.
saying, like, I am love, I am loved, I love. And it was just this repetition of those three phrases.
Mm,
And over the more you say it, you get beyond the concept of it. And there's just this energy, this like
mm,
signature, and it just becomes, but words are spells. God, what are the gospels?
mm,
God spells. There is such power, there's energetic power where the sounds that we make actually have a geometric signature. And if you've ever
mm,
heard of cymatics, there's a really fascinating field of sound study called cymatics, where it's different ways that we can see we can visually see sound. So we can
mm,
see these shapes that sounds are making. And we also fundamentally are energy. So it's this way that we get our energy coherent and organized. And I didn't have that level of insight while I was doing
mm,
it, but it just was another tool, like back then when I was just trying to keep
mhm.
my head above water. But But that can be another really effective way, is using affirmations. And then visualizations is another component that's really helpful if you're in a meditative state. But visualizing, whether that's just being in a peaceful meadow, being on the beach, just feeling like everything dropping away, letting yourself be just with the waves or just with the earth, just with the sun, and the calmness of that. Or if it's more, okay, I want to be in a sacred, I'm imagining myself in this sacred temple with my higher self, with my spirit guides, angels, whatever it is that we resonate with. There might be some ascended masters that we feel like could bless us in this space, or whatever it might be. But those are all, the imagination is it's a huge tool that can really help us. It's actually the imagination. I always say the imagination is actually a portal. It's a gateway. We're not making it up. We're just using the power of the imagination to open us up to other realities that we have the power to bring in through what might feel like make-believe. And it's a great way to also connect with our kids. Because I feel this, now I have this internal resistance to like trying to force anything on my kids. And if there are parents of teenagers who are listening to, you get it also, because when my kids were in elementary school, we just had a different connection than what you have when they're teenagers. And I never thought, especially my daughter, I was like, oh, she won't be like your typical teenager. We'll still be close. And
we have a connection.
And there was my ego again that needed to be tempered, because she's a regular teenager and it can be hard to connect with her. And they're in their phones. And I do try to tell them, like, guys, get out of your phones. Come and join us. We're here. Hello, 3D, like physical reality. It's around you. But that is one of the things that I love to do in my meditation, is just feeling like connecting with the energy, the spiritual nature of that spiritual aspect of myself. Because just whoever's listening, and just like you, Carrie, I'm a human with a physical body. I have thoughts, I have emotions, but really beyond all of that, all of those are temporary expressions of this eternal being that I am. And that eternal being is energetic. And my kids have that too. And so in meditation, that is what I really enjoy doing, especially when they're in need. If they're not feeling well, or if they're going through a hard time in some way, it's like getting myself still so that I can perceive my own energy. And then I might use a visualization, and then I visualize them. And a lot of times I'll see them as like a being of light, or I see them more like transparently, so that it's not even just the physical. And then feeling like that my heart is radiating to their heart, or that they're wrapped in divine energy and high frequency energy, or that their connection with their guides is getting stronger, and they're just receiving these blessings. And every single day I meditate, and every single day I ask God to protect them, to wrap them in God's light, and to strengthen their connection. That kind of sneaky way where I don't necessarily have to beat a dead horse with them of, don't forget, God's there for you and all this, which is great if they will listen and they're open to that. But failing that or not, we still have power as energetic beings to bless everybody that we love. And so my kids and my husband in particular, my pets, always get that individual blessing every day as well as part of my meditation.
That's beautiful. I love the way you describe that connection and how the process and everything, because I'm thinking in my mind, yes, I have elementary kids, and right now we can do the guided meditations, or every night when we're going to bed, I do it with my 7-year-old and almost 10-year-old, and they ask me for it. They ask me for Reiki.
Awesome.
So they're still at that age where it's exciting and it's fun. And then I'm thinking in my mind, maybe I'm like planting these seeds for when they're 16 one day. And yes, my ego's, oh, but of course we're going to be connected and we'll still be doing, no, Carrie, let's be realistic here, as Kara has told you. So I'm hoping like maybe if we've planted some of those seeds, then they'll have those tools for when they're having those hard moments. But you did also help my mama heart and maybe my ego a little bit in saying we can still connect with them energetically. We can still spiritually connect with them as they're older and when they're not wanting to do the guided meditation with mom me at that point.
Yes. And I hope for you that that will be a habit that they'll
Never
love to
know.
continue with. Yeah. Who's to say? Don't let me
Who's
limit
to
you.
say? We never know. Never
Yeah.
know what's coming.
Yeah.
This morning I was listening to one of your recent episodes about the solar flares and the energy with the sun. And I found it so fascinating because my almost 10-year-old this past week, we've all been sick. And I've been hearing there's been a lot of energy. Like, oh, that's interesting. And my son turned to me and he said, Mom, I feel like I've had this shift and I'm more intuitively connected right now. And I was like, whoa, that is really cool, dude. We were just celebrating. Okay, sometimes that can come with our headaches. Maybe that's why our head is hurting because we're in tune and we're connected and it's just showing us. So let's release that pain. Like, I know that you're there and we're connected. Let's release it. Have you found any tools when you're going through this heightened sensitivity piece? My daughter's 7. She's been more agitated than normal, like just very sensitive. I was curious if you have any tools for those times.
Yeah, that is so fascinating with your son that he was and not only just recognizing that something felt different, but that
Yeah.
he felt a shift and that he felt more connected. That's just amazing. And I think it's such an amazing indication of just the souls that are coming in, like
Yeah.
this young
Right.
generation who it's
Yeah.
like we have just some really incredible, like such special beings incarnating now,
Yeah.
which is so
Yeah.
exciting. Yeah, thinking about the solar flares, the geomagnetic activity on the planet, people may be familiar with the Schumann resonance when that spikes.
Mhm.
All of things work together. And I'll just lay the foundation in case there are people who are like, what in the world are we even talking about? The sun emits frequencies or it emits energies, and sometimes it will shoot out these concentrated energy bursts.
Mhm.
And the sun is much bigger than Earth. So a
Mhm.
lot of times these huge, they call them flares, solar flares will happen, and it's not directly earth facing. We might get a little bit of side radiation. Sometimes we get a big one and it's coming right at earth. Or there might be like a coronal hole, and that emits like solar wind, which increases the wind. We've had a lot of those lately.
Mhm.
It increases the wind. We can also have, if we come back to the earth. So anyway, so when that happens with the sun, the energy of the sun travels. It starts with the sun, but then it travels and it hits all the planets in our solar system, including the earth. And so we have this protection, quote unquote protection around the planet, which is our geomagnetic sphere. It's like this magnetic force field around our planet. And so we simultaneously have these times where that weakens. So
Mhm.
the magnetic sphere of the planet weakens. And so if we have a weakened magnetic sphere and then we have this heightened solar activity, it means that we're getting more radiation in the planet because that protective, like magnetic field keeps the radiation, the solar radiation, the cosmic radiation, it keeps it from coming directly into the planet and affecting us as much. Those things, so when we have things like geomagnetic storms, that can be that the magnetics are changing. And that can be with the physical manifestation that we can see of that is the changing in the northern lights. So when you see things, you might see things in the news about, oh, the northern lights are visible like way further south than normal, or they're very active. That is what that is. And then the Schumann
Okay.
resonance is like the heartbeat of the
Yeah.
planet. So that's a planetary vibration that will spike. And so we have this kind of frequency that is the sort of normal frequency for the planet. Then that can get high. And all of these things together affect us, just like your son was intuiting, because we are energy beings. So even though we have physicality, we experience ourselves as solid, but we are energy, that we're comprised of energy underneath and beneath and behind, like all the physicality, we're an energy being.
Mhm.
And our physicality is affected by changes in energy. And so in terms of what I do when I notice things. So a lot of times, like I'll feel tired, and if I can, I'll rest.
Mm,
But there are times where I feel like anxiety and I can't
mm,
pinpoint why. I'm like,
mm,
gosh, it feels like it's like this anticipation of
mhm.
something that I feel like I'm almost like storing energy for, or I'm nervous
Yeah.
about, or whatever. And but I don't really know what it is
Yep.
that's causing that. There can be the tired or wired or headaches, like you mentioned, that can be a really
Hmm.
common one as well. We can have hormonal imbalances. It can cause physical issues where sinus pressure or cold like
Hmm.
symptoms. All of those things are legitimate responses from an energetic perspective. And it's just our bodies taking this new information and being like, okay, this is different than how I'm used to vibing. And
Mm.
so there's this period where our energy is like integrating it or going, okay, here's this new thing I'm getting hit with. And I don't already have, it doesn't have anywhere to go because I don't know what to do with it because this is new.
Yeah.
And so your body's trying to figure out, what do we do with this? And so, as gentle as you can be on yourself in terms of listening, if you're tired and you can rest, if you feel like you have an overabundance of energy and you feel like it's like, I feel like I'm just sparking and have excess energy, a really helpful thing is to go and put your feet on the ground,
Hmm.
and like your bare feet on the ground. It's called
Okay.
grounding.
Yeah.
And feel that as you inhale, you're pulling up the energy of the earth through the soles of the feet and letting your body have that energetic exchange with the planet. Your body will know what to do, but there's an electron exchange that happens when you do that. If it's like super cold where you are and that's just not going to happen, you can find a tree, put both hands on a tree. That is also
Yes.
grounding. Having both hands on it completes a circuit. So it's a better way to communicate with the earth when you've got both hands on it. Salt baths can be very helpful too, or
Okay.
getting in a natural body of water. That's
Yep.
very helpful. But if you can't do that, or in addition, putting some Epsom salts in a bath can also be very good. Making sure you
Uh-huh.
stay hydrated,
Yep.
that's critical as well. Feeding yourself nourishing foods. If you're wired and then you're also like drinking a lot of caffeine and a lot of sugar and things like that, notice that and you'll want to adjust because that's going to just exasperate things. So, lots of ways for us to cope with it. But funnily enough, sometimes it takes noticing it and noticing
Hmm.
like that we're off, because
Yeah.
sometimes it can feel so
Yep.
personal. It's like people are triggering us and we can think like, why is that person saying these things? Why is everybody
Yep.
annoying me? Like,
Yep.
why? And
Yes.
it can feel like other people are doing it to us and we don't
Mhm.
recognize, wait a second, maybe it's me. Maybe
I'm the
I'm extra
common.
sensitive, or
Yep.
I'm irritated, or
Yeah.
I need to take care of myself. There's something within me that's calling out for some
Mhm.
nourishment or some TLC.
Yeah, I love the way you describe it. I think so many of us may have those heightened sensitivities here and there and not know how to describe it. And it's interesting because as an adult, you can be like, oh, I'm feeling more anxious. Oh, I'm feeling more agitated. I'm tired, all these pieces. Whereas my 7-year old, she might just be erupting a lot during the week and she can't tell us why. She doesn't know why yet, maybe. But yes, understanding, seeing the pattern in your kids, and then, like you said, finding some of these tools, slowing things down, and knowing it's not always going to be like this.
Yeah.
It's a phase with your kiddo right now, possibly. That's, and like my
Yeah.
daughter's better now. So we slowed everything down for a couple of weeks and we went through that period and now we're back to normal. Yeah. Hang in there, parents. It's not forever.
Yes, I
I
love
love,
it.
yeah, I love, so you wrote a book. Can you tell us about it? It sounds really neat.
Yes. Yes, thank you. It's called Your Authentic Awakening, a guide to everyday spiritual living.
Wow.
So, this is more for nourishing our own spiritual journey as parents. It's not so
Yeah.
much, it can be for any age, but it's not really written for kids, but really we need to know how to fill our own cup so that we have more to
Yeah.
give to our kids. And the more that
Yes.
we're in alignment within ourselves, body, mind, and soul, the better parents we are and the better we can emulate, or that our kids have that role model to emulate.
Yep.
and our energy ripples out to everything. But it talks about my journey, but it's more about the awakening process and some of the ways that things can become tricky and sticky and be hard terrain to navigate. There are a lot of practical tools. Every chapter finishes with a do it section, which is, okay, here are the concepts that we talked about and the examples that you saw. Here are practical things that you can do to help integrate what we've been talking about. So
Beautiful.
that is the nuts and bolts of it.
Great. And it's called Your Authentic Awakening?
Yes.
Correct. Okay, great.
Yeah.
And I can include all of your info in our show notes today. And thanks
Thank
so
you.
much for coming on and sharing all of your background and all of your stories with us. It's been such a treat.
This has been wonderful, Carrie. Thank you for everything that you're doing for parents and for kids and helping people to open up their hearts and increase that heart-to-heart connection with their kids. It's so critical.
Yeah.
And thanks for having me on. You're a great host.
Thanks so much. I look forward to connecting with you on your show.
Yes, I can't wait.
Well, that's a wrap. Thanks so much for tuning in, Changemakers. This is Carrie. And if you haven't done a review for us, 5 stars and a little few words about what you've enjoyed in our podcast episodes, we would really appreciate it. If you guys would like to ever message me, I would love any questions you have or any feedback at info@hearttoheartlife.com. We also have a brand new website, which we're super excited to share. It's hearttoheartlife.com. Thanks so much for tuning in, and happy life, happy times, Changemaker families. Please remember that the information shared on this podcast is educational in nature and does not constitute licensed mental health advice. If you need such advice, you should speak with a licensed professional about your unique situation. Thanks so much, happy listeners.